This lesson is called Factoring Part 3. We are going to put together what we did in the previous lessons all together in one to go over a few examples. We're still mostly talking about quadratic expressions, but there might be a step before to get there. Okay, so our objectives are we're just going to put it all together and do a few example problems. Remember that factoring means to undo with multiplication, and then we always look for a greatest common factor first when we're factoring. Okay, so some vocabulary that I just wanted to go over is a quadratic expression is specifically in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. For some of the instructions, you might see it as factor the trinomial, which really just means it's a polynomial that has three terms. So that could be 6y cubed plus 8y squared plus 9y or something like that. Anything that has three terms. So even a quadratic expression is a trinomial because it has three terms. Okay, so example 1, factor completely 2b squared minus 28b plus 98. Remember to look for a greatest common factor first. The first thing you should do is look for a greatest common factor. We look for a greatest common factor first, okay? Because when you're asked to factor completely, the answer won't be right unless you do that first so that it's completely factored, okay? So in this case, our greatest common factor, we look at 2b squared, 28b, and 98. Our greatest common factor is 2. Okay, so if we take a 2 out of all of our terms, we're left with b squared minus 14b plus 49. Okay, and then we look at what we have left in the parentheses. Can we factor this anymore? We would be looking for two numbers that multiply to positive 49 and add together to negative 14, which would give us negative 7 and negative 7. Okay, so b squared minus 14b plus 49 factors to b minus 7 times b minus 7, and we still have a 2. Okay, or you can write this as 2 times b minus 7 squared. The reason you can write it as squared is because it's multiplied times itself. There. If you're going to check this, I recommend using FOIL or distributing the b minus 7 times b minus 7 first, and then multiply everything by 2. But remember, you can always check your answer by multiplying these out and making sure you get to the original. Next, factor the trinomial completely. So here we have that word trinomial. We've got three terms. We always look for a greatest common factor. Okay, so we're going to take out a 7, and we have x squared plus 4x minus 5, and then we look to c. Okay, if it can't factor anymore, this is your final answer. But when it says factor completely, we need to get it down completely factored, okay, so that there's no greatest common factors in any one of our factors. Okay, so we're looking for two numbers that multiply to give negative 5 and add to get 4. Okay, so you can go through. Those are really our two options. We're going to go with this one. Those multiply to negative 5 but add to 4. So we have 7 times x minus 1 times x plus 5. Okay. And to check it, what I mean is I would use FOIL here to get x squared plus 5x minus x minus 5, and this would still be times 7. Okay, so we would have 7 times x squared plus 4x minus 5, and then we could distribute that. So if we distribute the 7 times x squared, 7 times 4x, and 7 times negative 5 gives us 35. Okay, so for the next example, complete the factoring or completely factor or factor the trinomial. So we have 2y squared plus 18y plus 36y. So when we're looking for our greatest common factor, we look at our numbers and our variables. So our greatest common factor is 2, and then each of them have a y. So our greatest common factor in this case is 2y. So we take a 2y out of everything. Remember, it's like dividing each of these by 2y. So we'd have y squared plus 9y plus 18, and then we look to see if we can factor any more. Two numbers that multiply to 18 and add to 9. If you list the factors, you'll find that that's 6 and 3. So this is 2y times y plus 3, y plus 6 would be the final answer there. Okay, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, reach out to me.